Welcome to Authentically You Podcast, the podcast that dives deep into a transformative journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and self-expression. I'm your host, Kirsty Hankin, and I'm here to guide you on a path towards embracing your true, unapologetic, authentic self. In this podcast, we'll embark on a quest to uncover the secrets to breaking free from societal expectations, shredding the masks we wear, and stepping into our own power. Each episode will explore the questions and challenges that our listeners face on their personal journeys, providing practical insights and heartfelt advice. But it doesn't stop there. Authentically You Podcast goes beyond just answering your questions. We're here to introduce you to a diverse lineup of incredibly knowledgeable professionals who will share their expertise, wisdom, and experiences. We'll bring you thought-provoking interviews that will inspire and empower you. This is Authentically You Podcast, unleashing life on your own terms. I'm Kirsty Hankin, and together, let's unlock the power within and live life authentically. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. We're in this together. Hello, and welcome to Authentically You Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I know today you are going to get some beautiful knowledge and some great insights and clarity around lots of different things from our guest. So let me introduce today's guest. 5 years ago, she pretty much started her life over. She got divorced, had no job, and moved to a new state. Not embracing her true self led to years of anxiety and depression and cost so much joy and happiness. She allowed her insecurities, self-judgment, comparison to others to prevent her from doing so many things. Once she embraced her authentic self, she began stepping out of her comfort zone and into confidence. This has improved her relationship with friends and loved ones, expanded her circle of friends, allowed her to be more bold professionally, and has led her to pursuing her passion of sharing her experiences and knowledge with others, and feeling like she is doing the work that she was put on earth to do. For a long time, she was merely existing, and now that she's embraced her true self, she is finally living. Welcome to the show, Allyssya.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here.
We are thrilled to have you here. We can't wait to dive in and learn so much more about you. So tell us about your self-discovery journey into becoming authentically you. Take us back before, starting your life over. When did it all start for you? Tell us everything.
Okay. I'm going to go way back.
Yep.
I actually don't remember a time growing up, like before those anxieties and insecurities were there. I feel like they have just always been there. So, middle school and high school was really, really tough. And it's interesting now as an adult to reconnect through social media with people who I might not have been very close with in high school, but I knew them.
Yeah.
And they will say that they're so shocked that they had no idea how insecure I was or how much I was struggling because I hid it so well.
Mm-hmm.
College wasn't really much better, honestly, and that just carried over into life after college. I got married about 6 months after graduating from college. So, it was just something that had always sort of been there. And after a while, depression really kicked in, and I truly was just existing. Getting out of bed was the major accomplishment of the day, and I ate and I took my dogs out, and that was kind of my day. And I just sort of I believed a lot of things that were said to me from people in my circle who I think genuinely loved me and cared about me and truly only wanted what was best for me. But because I didn't have the confidence to really speak up and say, no, I don't really think that's accurate. I think that I am capable of more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, the less that I did, the more insecure I got, and the more insecure I got, the less I did. And it took a major event in my marriage to kind of shift the tide. And I no longer allowed myself to kind of be the shell of a person, and was not codependent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just started doing a little bit on my own, and a little bit more on my own, and a little bit more on my own. And that got me to be a little bit more confident, and was finally able to say some things in the moment. So many times you, like a day later, 2 days later, you're like, oh, I should have said this.
Yes.
I had a moment, and I still remember it clear as day, where I finally said the thing I needed to say in the moment I needed to say it, to the person I needed to say it.
Wow.
And it was so, so empowering. I discovered yoga and meditation, and I say those two things changed my life. I had tried yoga many times before, and I was like, oh, I can't do yoga.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where the right person says the right time in the moment when you're able to receive it. And maybe somebody else said those exact same words before and you just couldn't hear it. Mm-hmm. And someone finally explained to me that meditation is not sitting there for an hour thinking about nothing. Right?
Yep.
That our minds wander. They do. And meditation is like the act of catching it and bringing it back. And this woman had been meditating for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And she said the longest that she had ever been like completely blank mind, absent of thought, was like 2 to 3 seconds. I was like, oh, okay.
It's good when you understand it, right? Yeah, because people do. They think it's just, oh, I got to sit there for like hours and just be silent and not what? Yeah.
Right.
Not that, yeah.
Right. So all of that was kind of happening in 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And that was when the big life change happened, and I moved to a new state, and I started my life over. And I mean, of course, it was very, very difficult. And at the same time, it was very empowering to, it was about 6 months before I turned 40. I lived on my own for the first time in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And I got to make all of the decisions of where things went. And I got to walk around my place naked with no worry that there was going to be another person. And, just small things like that led to bigger things and led to bigger things.
That's amazing. When you say you got into deep depression, did you know that you were depressed at the time, or is that like a hindsight?
Oh, I was very aware of it in the moment. I was not aware of it when it started. Like looking back, it truly started in high school and it got really bad in college. But that was like the late 90s. We didn't talk about things like that back then, right? Yeah. I remember when panic attacks first started, I had no idea what was happening to me physically. Like it was such an odd sensation, but I had no clue what it was, and I didn't talk about it with anyone. So then when it got really, really bad after I was married, I knew what was happening at that point. Mm-hmm. And not to say that I don't still have moments of that now. It just looks so vastly different, right? The pit is not anywhere near as deep. So that has been kind of a learning process too, to recognize the signs of it, because it does look so different now. Like I'm still fully functioning. I still get up and go to work, and I still take care of my dog and all of those things. But I'm like, oh, kind of in a pit right now, but it's like this much versus, giant.
Perfect. And now you have the tools and the skills to get yourself out of that pit, where before you didn't, right?
Yes. Yes. And there was a time in my life where I was on a lot of medication, and I'm very blessed to not be now. And not to say that there's anything wrong with it. And sometimes we need it for a season, and sometimes we need it for a lifetime. For me, I am grateful that I'm able to manage it with those other skills at this time in my life because of the side effects. Like I felt like I was always playing the medication game, right? Like this one, well, it will trigger something else, so then we need to take another one. And that kind of compounded things for me.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to have been blessed to get to a place where I don't medically need them, and I'm able to manage with the other skills and tools that I have.
That's amazing. It's so cool. So when I find this really odd, and not odd in a bad way, but just like my thinking, you were depressed, anxiety through high school and in college, yet you managed to have a boyfriend and get married.
Well, so it turns out there are people who really like to be rescuers. And my ex-husband will tell you, we are very, very fortunate to still be good friends now. I mean, there was some time after, but we are good friends now, and we've had very candid conversations. So I'm not saying anything that he and I have not already talked about together, but he recognizes that he has a tendency to need to be a rescuer, and he gets fulfillment from helping others. And to be a rescuer, you kind of need a victim or someone who needs rescuing, right? So yes, we fit well together in that very unhealthy way.
Oh, interesting. And at what point did you have the sort of strength to realize that something wasn't quite right and that you weren't really happy and you needed to do something, make a change?
Well, with regard to my mental health, I was very open to the idea of therapy pretty early on. I was married we separated after 15 years. And I think I started therapy within our first couple of years of being married. So I was open to that. When I first went to college, I was pre-med. So like the health and wellness, and then I ended up graduating with a degree in nutrition, fitness, and health, which is not what I ended up doing professionally, but just kind of that whole health and wellness space was something that was of interest to me kind of all along. So I think that's part of why I was always open to the idea of going to see a therapist. Then that progressed and got, significantly worse. And in that space, I don't think I even knew what I didn't know, right? Like I was in such a dark space that I really was relying on my ex-husband and the medical professionals to kind of guide me. And yet looking back, I realized their guidance was not actually what was best for me. And I don't think it came from a place of malicious intent at all. I think they genuinely believed it. And I think part of the reason why I struggled so much was there was something inside of me that said, no, I really do think you are capable of more. I think that you can get past this eventually. And thankfully I did.
That's amazing. Can you give us sort of an example of maybe a little bit of advice that they gave that didn't quite align with you?
Sure. So in addition to anxiety and depression, I was given a couple of other labels, if you will. And there was a time where I mentally was not capable of working. So I was on disability, and that was truly warranted for that time. But one of the things that was said and kind of encouraged that I just needed to accept was that I likely would not be able to work a full-time job for the rest of my life, and that it would probably be a part-time job at the most, and something that didn't require a whole lot of, I guess, effort, or was not mentally draining, right? That perhaps I could bag groceries, or, and not that there's anything wrong with that job, but just something that didn't require a degree. And at that point, I had a couple of them.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't require, a lot of creativity, and it wouldn't require a lot of interacting with people. And just, there were a lot of limitations placed on the guidance that I was given for what my life was capable of being.
Yeah. And how did that feel for you inside? Like you said that you sort of knew that it wasn't. How did you know that? If you can answer that.
I don't really know. And one of the pieces that kept coming up with my doctor, with my ex-husband, with my therapist, was that my resistance was leading to my suffering, and that if I would just accept it, that then I would stop suffering and I could move forward and live a very full life in this part-time job, maybe.
Yeah. Full. Yeah.
Right. And I can't really put my finger on it. I had the resistance, and I think the reason I could never fully accept that was deep down, I knew that I could do more. I knew that I could get to a point where I was living and not just merely existing. And it was shortly after my ex-husband and I had reconnected. We were having a conversation, and he apologized. He said, "I'm sorry, I just didn't believe that you were capable." And he didn't mean that in any kind of, malicious way. He believed all of the medical professionals and what they were telling us.
And that's something to think about for everyone is, medical professionals are obviously doing the best in what they know and everything, but it's also down to you as a person to really understand yourself. And if you're in a really good place and you know your worth, and you're aware of your body and the things that are going on, or the things that you're being told, or the things that you're feeling, you really need to stick to your guns and I guess not go and prove them wrong, but essentially that's what it is in the end, isn't it? I don't know how to word it any different, but really step out and don't just go, oh, okay, all right. Because I do actually feel there's a lot of people in the world that sort of accept things that doctors say or people in authority say, and that they go, oh, okay. And that's when they sort of lose themselves, and then they become that person and they don't know any different. And that's in their subconscious mind. So that's their belief and their habits all go around what's been said. And you have to have the strength and the knowledge and really know yourself before you can actually come out of that shell. So we really need to learn how to do this from blimmin' 2 years old, don't we?
Yes. Trust your gut, trust your intuition, and be able to speak up, right?
Yeah.
I was watching something and they were talking about business, but the idea of don't take no for an answer, it's kind of that same concept, right? Like if someone is telling you something that just doesn't feel quite right, get that second opinion. And that's something that, looking back, we were talking about our beliefs, right?
Yeah.
I was being told these things, and I truly believed that the reason that I wasn't, quote unquote, getting better was because I was just so broken that I was incapable of getting better. And it never even occurred to me that perhaps a different professional might be what I needed. And ultimately, that's what ended up happening. There was a weird series of events that led me to trying a new therapist. And then I tried another new therapist. And then when I moved, I got another new one. And there was just so much progress in a couple of years' time that I hadn't made in like 10 years' time. And
wow.
yeah. And then after that, I was able to move to working with a life coach. And then I saw big growth, right?
Yeah.
Like we got out of the pit and then we started really doing the work.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so incredible. Like, just, you should be so proud of yourself. I'm so proud of you for getting out of that and where you come. So tell us, from when you moved, tell us about what made you move across states. Tell us that, and where you are now.
Sure. So I originally grew up in Indiana, and moved to Georgia for my ex-husband. And it was about 650 miles away. And when we were going through our separation and ultimately divorce, I wasn't working, and he was kind of the only thing keeping me in Georgia. And my parents were still in Indiana. And so I just knew that I could not, in my heart, justify staying there, even though I had an established life with friends and all of those wonderful things I loved in there. I just couldn't feel good about staying there. So I moved back to Indiana, and I lived with my parents for about 6 months, which was really difficult. I felt like a complete and utter failure because my marriage had fallen apart and I was living with them and I didn't have a job, just all of these things, right? And then I got my own place. And as I mentioned, it was about 6 months before I turned 40, and to live entirely on my own for the first time in my life was such a wonderful and empowering experience. I got that new life coach or new therapist at the time. And that was a difficult process, whether you're working with a life coach or a therapist or whatever. Like, it's kind of like dating, right? It has to be right for both people.
Yeah.
And it took a while to find the right fit. And so, it was like going on a first date that you leave it and you're like, man, that sucked. And it cost me a lot of money. But I finally found a really, really good one. And it just sort of snowballed from there. I started working again, and I had a full-time job, and then I had a full-time job and a part-time job. And just to see myself doing those things gave me confidence. And that led to doing more things, and it led to more confidence. And I was on my own, and so I didn't have kind of the crutch that I had with my ex-husband. And I was in a city where I knew no one, because I live about 45 minutes from my parents, and I didn't know a soul other than the people I worked with. So I did a friendship app, which is just like a dating app, but for making friends. Like, create a profile and you swipe and you match. And it was so far outside my comfort zone, but it gave me confidence to try dating. And then that gave me confidence to do other things. And I just started then doing things by myself that I always told myself, oh, there's no way I could ever do that.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend in Georgia who travels on her own all the time, and she goes to concerts by herself and all these things. And I remember years ago saying, oh, there's no way I could do that. And now I've done all of it.
Yes.
So
that's good.
That's kind of what life looks like now.
Yeah, brilliant. And I like the fact that you've mentioned that therapists, it's like dating. It is so important when you are finding a life coach, finding a therapist, finding anyone that you want to help you, even doctors and things, I guess, like we've
Yeah,
talked about,
absolutely.
making sure that they are you're a right fit. So it's not just them, it's not about them making sure that you're the right fit for them, it's vice versa. So you have to make sure that you're comfortable and you've got a good feeling about them. If you walk away going, oh, okay, is this how it's okay, this is how it is, no it doesn't. If it feels like that, might be time to try someone else. And if you're going into a therapist for the first time, you probably don't understand what's going to be happening and what you're meant to do and things and how you're meant to feel. But you should know after that first session, have a little think, did that feel, how am I feeling about it? Is there any ickiness? Is there any like, oh, I don't know about this? And not, oh, I don't know about this about therapy in general, but that person, then you need to have a little think and maybe try someone else, because there is definitely someone out there for you, isn't there?
Yes.
So to find that,
Yeah.
like the dating.
Yes. The other piece that I will add to that is they might only be for you for a season.
Yeah.
Right? Like it might be a great fit for a while and then all of a sudden it's not, and that's okay too. That doesn't mean that it was a bad choice or that you picked wrong or wasted your time or whatever the case may be. But I had to learn that one through getting my hair done.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but a lot of us women, right, will keep going back to the same person over and over and over again, even though every time we leave, we're like, oh, I didn't like this, or she didn't do this right, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So
something. Yeah.
The people pleaser in me sometimes has a difficult time speaking up for my wants and my needs. And so that is something that has come with the confidence. And the more I speak up for my wants and my desires and my needs, then the more confident I get. And, it's cyclical.
Yeah, exactly. The more that you're working on yourself, the more you open up, the more love you get, the more you create, the more ideas come to you, the more opportunities come to you. It is just so good. So good. You mentioned panic attacks and you weren't sure what they were. Were you having panic attacks in public, or were they by yourself?
The first time that happened, I was in public. Actually the first several times. And then I did start to have them privately, but it was like anticipatory anxiety. I would have the panic attack anticipating what I was going to have to do.
Yes.
But the first handful of times that it happened, I had no clue and really looking back, no reason why it happened. The very first time I was in college, I was sitting in class and all of a sudden my whole body, like it was shaking, and it felt like my skin was too tight for my body and I just needed to move. But because I had A, no clue, and B, I had been raised to be a very good student and to follow the rules and all of that, like I forced myself to sit through the rest of the class. And I mean, it happened pretty early on into an hour-long class, and I forced myself to sit through the entire thing. And then it happened several more times while I was in college, and same thing. I just forced myself to sit through it and just be in total agony. But it wasn't like something happened, right? Like I didn't get called on. It was a very calm class. I have no idea what initially triggered them.
Yeah.
Later, I knew what it was, and I knew things that would trigger it. Being in large groups of people, going somewhere where I wasn't going to know anyone, and having to, make small talk. I mean, that still is not my favorite thing to do, if I'm just really honest, but I've learned some coping skills, and I have given myself permission to leave. If it's really not going well, you have permission to leave, and giving myself that permission has been huge.
I really love that. That's such a good thing to be able to do for yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
Because
to remove the rules
yeah,
is so wonderful.
I love that. What I know that yoga and meditation is absolutely like amazing. What would you tell someone that isn't or hasn't done meditation or yoga? What would you tell them on how it will be able to help?
It gives you control over your brain
Mm-hmm.
and your mind and your thinking. And when you realize that you have control over it, it changes everything.
And that's what we ideally want in the world, is to be in more control of our thoughts and control of our feelings and our actions. And it's quite funny until you sort of say that, or someone hears this audio podcast and goes, control? What do you mean? Oh, of course I'm in control. Are you? Are you really in control?
Right.
I
was not.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. I mean, my thoughts were racing so fast. I didn't even recognize how many thoughts I was having and could not process them in the amount of time that they were coming in. And I had tried things like journaling or a thought download, which are very valuable skills and tools. But meditation allowed me to catch it in the moment when it was happening. And let's bring that back. And then that process led to being able to have control over changing my thoughts around the exact same circumstance. So often we think that people who are just happy all the time, it's because their life is just so wonderful. And the truth is, we all have difficult circumstances. So often we try to make what we think about those circumstances the fact. And the truth is, the fact is what can be proven, right? Black and white can be proven in a court of law. What we think about it, that is what changes everything for us. And for me, meditation taught me how to recognize the thoughts that I was actually having and decide, is that thought really working for me, or would I like to change it?
Yeah.
But that's a long process. I didn't just all of a sudden be like, okay, today I'm going to just start changing my thoughts. First, I had to recognize what ones I was having. And that's where meditation came in.
Yeah. Being conscious.
And I will say meditation is also kind of like dating, right? Like there are so many different types and ways that you can meditate. Try them all and see what you like and what works for you. And don't just say, oh, I tried it once and it didn't work for me.
Exactly. Same with yoga. Same with everything. You can't just go in and try it once and expect to be the best at everything and get the gold medal for it. No, that doesn't work like that. You need to work on it and try it. And so many people have said that meditation and yoga are things that will help you to become your authentic self, that help you to learn skills and get you focused and help you with your thoughts and things like that. So do it, people, just do it.
Right. Yes, I start my day with about 15 to 20 minutes of yoga, and I end my day with meditation. And I used to have really, really, really debilitating insomnia. There's like a 2.5 year period where I swear I've never slept. And now sometimes I can't even finish my meditation because it relaxes me so much that I do fall asleep, which is not the goal of meditation. The goal is to not fall asleep while you're doing it. But I do it at the end of the day, and it just calms my brain, because my insomnia was due to all of those racing thoughts. You go to bed and all of a sudden it's quiet and you don't have anything else but your thoughts. So the meditation at bedtime helps with that.
Awesome. And the fact that you say that you do yoga for 10-15 minutes, everyone can fit 10-15 minutes in, can't
yes
they? So
I notice such a difference in my day, the days that I start my day with yoga and the days that I don't.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a good thing for people to try. Do yoga for a little bit, then stop for a day and see the difference.
Yes. And again, you don't have to be like a master yogi and like twist yourself into a pretzel. Right? You can do a couple down dogs and a couple child's poses and cat cow and call it a day, and it still has a great impact.
And that's exactly, you're right though. That's what everyone's perception of it is that. Well, everyone's perception of everything, isn't it? It's a societal expectation. The societal, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but what people think it is, but it's not. You're not going into pretzel. Well, you can, but not straight away. Yeah. Right. You got to work to get to that pretzel stage, right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And for anyone that may be starting or feeling like they are merely just getting by, what is your one piece of advice to get them started to moving towards being their authentic self? Where do they start?
One thing to get you started. Think about like the smallest thing that would be outside your comfort zone and give it a try.
I love that.
So often we think that to, again, like we were talking about with yoga, right? You have to go from day one doing nothing to day two, you're a pretzel. You know, you don't have to go from barely leaving the house to jumping out of an airplane, right? Like,
yeah, right.
just something small
to
start the process. And it's kind of like a spiral, right? Like you just start a little bit and it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And before you know it, like you're clear out here, and you barely recognize the person that you used to be. But it was such a gradual process that it sort of happened, I won't say entirely effortlessly, but almost effortlessly, because it was such a small step along the way. And it doesn't feel so overwhelming and paralyzing. It feels doable.
Nice. What a great piece of advice. I love that. What else is there? So where are you now? Tell us about how you're feeling now, how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself right now.
Right now. Well, overall, I feel pretty good, right? Like there are always things that I want to improve or areas where I want to grow. And I think that's the other thing. So often is a misconception that there is some like final destination, and there just isn't, right? I mean, it gets kind of cliche that the journey is the destination, but it really is like enjoying each day and enjoying each of those little successes and the big successes, and just knowing that there is no end. But today I'm kind of living that. I used to always think that there was an end, a final destination, a day where I was going to be like, I have arrived.
Hallelujah.
Right. And now I do kind of celebrate all the little things. I am way more present. You know, this past weekend, I went to an area that's about an hour and a half from my house and just enjoyed the beautiful fall leaves. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And a few days before that, I got up. I just happened to be up early and I just sat and watched the sunrise, and it was a beautiful, like painted sky. Those are things that I used to not even notice, let alone appreciate, because I was so in my head and so caught up in the anxiety and not even knowing what I really liked or didn't like, because I was just I was existing and existing for others. I didn't speak up about what I wanted to do. So that's another thing that today is different, is if somebody asks me what I want, there are times when I genuinely don't care, and I'll just say, I don't care, what sounds good to you. And then there are times when I really do have an opinion, and now I actually say it, and that feels pretty good.
Awesome.
So that's, and I go to concerts by myself, and I do things. That comes to mind because I have one next week, and it's a huge arena concert, and I am going by myself. And there is a time in my life where there's no way I would have even considered going if I didn't have someone else to go with. And now it's kind of become one of my favorite things to go by myself, because I don't have to do it any way other than how I want to do it. I get to go what time I want to go. I get to eat what I want to eat. I get to leave when I want to leave. It's just lovely.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, yay. What's the concept, by the way?
Pink.
Oh, yes. What a show. I'm sure that's going to be, well, I know it's going to be amazing. She's amazing.
She is amazing. I saw her a few years ago, and I am very excited to see her again. I hope she is feeling better. I know she had to cancel a few shows recently because she was ill. So fingers crossed. For her sake and for mine.
Yes,
she is.
For both of you. Brilliant. So if anyone wants to work with you, and tell us about how they can do that and what you can do for them.
Sure. So I am a life coach, focusing on helping people, increase their confidence and just how they exist in the world. So the name of my company is Amplify Your Panache.
Nice.
Because, well, panache is a word that is very near and dear to my heart, but it means confidence. So we want to turn that up. So you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/amplify your panache.
Nice. And I'll put that in the show notes for everyone to have a go and be part of the group. And I understand you have an amazing, amazing freebie for the group. Tell us about that.
I do. So anyone listening and would like to, take a chance and see if we might be a good fit, I am offering a complimentary consultation and 2 free coaching sessions.
That is amazing. So amazing. Everyone, get on board. That is an amazing offer. Like, you don't understand. That's amazing. So thank you, Allyssya. Thank you.
You are welcome.
So the last little bit is your fun questions. Now we ask these to everybody, so they're the same questions, and we've got some really cool answers. It's all about you, so everyone is completely different. If authenticity were a color, what color would it be for you, and why?
Oh man. I'm going to go with turquoise because it is my favorite color. And so if I was being authentic, I would tell you that it's my favorite color.
Nice, nice. If you could be any animal, if you could be an animal to express your true self, which animal would you choose and how does it represent you?
I'm going to go with a sloth. Because they are very cuddly and they might be a little bit slow to move, but they're going to meet their destination.
I love that. And the fact that me and my son have been watching Ice Age.
Nice.
If you had a magic wand and everyone in the world had a one ruling that they had to follow, what would it be? That you created?
One rule.
Yeah.
They have one rule that they have to follow. I'm going to go with they have to work with a life coach, because I think if everyone worked with a life coach, our entire world would be different.
I can just feel that now. Just that is amazing. If everyone really did do that, the world would be such a different place.
It really would. I
Mm.
think so many people think that life coaches tell you what to do, and they don't do that. They ask you questions and give you the autonomy to figure things out on your own. And I think so often the reason we're in the space that we are as a society is that lack of introspection and the lack of really asking questions and asking why you might believe or behave that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So I think I really do believe in the work, whether someone works with me or another life coach. I really do believe that the work can change the world. I know what it has done for my life. I know what it's done for some other people's lives. And if it did that for everyone's life, imagine how different we would interact with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that ruling. What a great way. What a great ruling. Let's put it into play.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. And the last question is, what last words do you have for the listeners? Is there any sort of important words that you have coming through or that you feel like you need to say to the listeners? We've got the last words.
Yeah, I think we are all on a journey of self-discovery and growth. But what's really important to always remember is that in this present moment, you are whole, capable, and perfect. And there's nothing wrong with you.
Oh, that is beautiful and so true. I love that for the last words, Alyssya. That's so amazing. So amazing. You, my dear, have been an absolute superstar, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that it's going to resonate with whoever is listening to this. Even if it's not exactly the same, they'll be able to take something from it. I know that for a fact. So thank you so much for being the most amazing guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yay. And everyone else, I hope you have enjoyed listening, and make sure you take notes and take those gold nuggets and put them into action. And we will see you next time. See you soon, guys. Mwah! Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Authentically You Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. If you'd like to stay connected with us, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and follow us on social media. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Kirsty Impact Coach, or Become Authentically You on the Facebook group. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and ideas for future episodes. Feel free to drop us a message or leave a review. Your input means the world to us as we continue to grow and improve. Remember, living authentically is a journey, and we're so glad and grateful to have you with us on this path of self-discovery and personal growth. Until next time, always remember to be true to yourself, embrace your uniqueness, and live life unapologetically, because you are truly remarkable just the way you are. This is Kirsty, signing off on the Authentically You podcast. Take care and keep shining bright.